How far does our freedom go? And this is the essence of what I want to get across today. The freedom that we have in our man-made freedom and the freedom of the world is limited. Very, very limited. We need to understand that. Now, Dave is going to like this one. This point here, I'm going to rephrase it in a moment. But for the moment anyway, I'm going to keep Dave happy, and we're going to talk about fake freedom. Well, let's use another word, false freedom. Because there is a false freedom in the world where you have the sense that you're indeed freed and the like. And then we have to ask ourselves, how true is our freedom, though, on the other hand? So today I want to go through the example of what Jesus talks about freedom, his freedom, because I believe that Jesus was the freest human being ever to walk the face of the earth. Totally. No one was as free as Jesus was free. And when we go through this, hopefully we'll understand it. So he makes some powerful statements about freedom to a people who saw themselves as free in their state of captivity. So seeing yourself free in a state of captivity is like a safari park. We're going to San Diego later this month. We're taking the grandkids, and they have two choices. One, they can go to the zoo, and they see animals in the zoo, but we know they're not free. Or they could go to the safari park, where these animals are free to roam. But how free are they? Well, there's a way out there somewhere, there's a fence. And there are segments, but for their state of mind, as it were, and certainly what we're trying to perceive as human beings, these animals are free to roam wherever they want to go. And because the area is so big, they don't know that they're fenced in. So I want to use this example, and this is why freedom and the Dead Sea. The water rushing down the river, headed toward the Dead Sea, on its way there is free. It's free to flow here. It's free to be a rapid. When it rains and gullies then form and it goes in, headed toward the Dead Sea. On its way to the Dead Sea, it believes it is quite free. Our world, on its way down freedom's path, as they see freedom's path, feel that they are free. So who introduced them to this idea, this concept? Satan did. And Lucifer did. In the book of Genesis we read, look, if you take of this fruit, which is, there's no charge to it. You won't die. So there's no charge. This is kind of free for you to take. You will have freedoms, and you will know things that will set you free. You will know things that you didn't know before, and there's a freedom in all of that. So the world's freedom is much like those rivers and like, and the world's freedom is false and it's limited. Paul made this example where he said, if this is all we got in life, then you just as well eat, drink, and be married. Because if there is no God, how long is your freedom going to last? Well, you say, I'm going to have freedom till the day I die. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Because I've been counseling people who are getting old, and they're not free to drive. They're not free to hear. There's some of them not free to see very well. Some aren't free to taste. Some aren't free to think on their own because they've got dementia and the like. I mean, they're close to, as it were, the Dead Sea if this life is all that there is. It's very, very limited. But for the moment, they have a sense of free. You know, the hippies in the 60s, free at last, free love, free all of those things. It wasn't free. There was a price to pay. You might get a free pack of cigarettes back then, passed out, or whatever, a free drug. Say, this is free. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel high. It isn't free. So we want to take a look again and recognize that God has given us free moral agency. He's given us free will. We are free to live as we want. So how do we want? And that's why I read from the book of Romans that he has set us free from sin. The gift of God, the wages of sin is death. The gift of God is eternal life. So let's take a brief look in John chapter 8 at Jesus' freedom. And I think it'll help us to understand freedom, the freedom that you and I can enjoy. This is John chapter 8, and we're going to begin in verse 28 here, where Jesus encountered these people, and he's giving them some instruction and teaching. And this is what he says. And here's one of the things I find interesting, is that the fact that we don't know everything is freeing to me, that I don't need to know everything, and that God's timing is good. So when he says here, verse 28 of John chapter 8, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am the one I claim to be, and that I do nothing on my own, but speak just what the Father has taught me. So let's take a look at Jesus' freedom here. First of all, he was free to help them to understand. You don't understand this right now. When I'm lifted up, after the fact, you're going to understand things. Now, as I go through life, I think all have some after-the-fact experiences. After the fact, we say, now I understand. This is not unlike Job. Job was a righteous man. There were more things for him to learn. And at the end of the book of Job, he says, I thought I saw God, knew God and all that, but now I see him and I hear him, I understand him like I never understood him before. And so it is freeing to know that you don't have to know everything, but you have someone who is your guide, your counselor, who does know and like. So the point here is that we are free to depend upon God. And so when we think about freedom, we're thinking about the freedom that God gives to us. So, and what he gave to Jesus. Now, Jesus did not feel as if he was in prison when he says here, I can do nothing of myself. Now, is that an imprisonment to us, or as Christians, are we very thankful that we depend upon God and that he gives us direction, he gives us support, and he works within his will, and he helps us. It's nice to know where you're going. So when we were going to Tioga Pass and all that, I got out the road map and I said, oh, this is where you go, and this is the highway you take. Now, that's not always easy, because from Yosemite to take Tioga Pass, you got to go north a good little ways, and there's not a sign that says go this far and then make the turn. But it was on the map. But on my way back up, going north when I wanted to go south and go then east, I was beginning to doubt where I was going. This is doubting is not freeing. And as I told you before, not knowing is not a free thing for me. I get very irritated when I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. So obviously most of my life is in the irritation and the like. So he says here, doesn't have a problem being told what to do. In Satan's world, in the world of our freedom, we do not want to be told what to do.
The world today is a challenging environment for Christian believers and followers of Jesus Christ. Looking for answers? Grace Communion International local churches in Fairfield, Santa Rosa, and Modesto offers a comforting environment for Christians in search of spiritual growth and development. Contact our local ministry. Attend our local GCI churches at the times listed on your screen.